There we go.
Now look, you're recording.
Yeah, I think we're up and about, Spenno. So the Lions Den. It's been some time, Spenno.
Yes.
It's been, in fact, quite a while since we've sat down and thought, you know what, we're gonna do this. But there's been a bit that's going on, right? Like a pandemic's happened.
You've had a baby.
Yeah, little Freddy, named after your son, of course. Popped out of the missus, and we're just keeping him alive, and he's healthy, and he's growing, and all is well. And you've been busy as well with your own family, trying to get
Yes.
your poor daughter back from the
Oh,
motherland.
Blighty. Yes, exactly. Yeah, no. Thank goodness that's all sorted out, eh?
Sweet beard of Zeus, but nonetheless, Major League Soccer is postponed, I guess,
It's
is the
back
best
but
way to put it.
postponed.
But they got 2 games in, didn't they? And
They did, yeah.
and I think this first episode, we'll try and knock these out once a week to entertain those that care. Few and far between, but nonetheless. I'm intrigued. I think this first episode we talk about those first 2 games, and we can kind of go from there. But there is news in the soccer world, in the Major League Soccer world. Today they announced that they're extending what they're calling a moratorium, essentially, where they're not allowing any players into training facilities. Which is a shame, although that's only until April 3rd, which is only a couple of weeks away. I saw you tweeted, Spenno, you think that's probably going to be pushed back even further, and I think you're probably right.
I would have thought so. Yeah, I'd have thought so. I mean, we're just trying to get ahead of the curve. You know, that's the flattening of the curve of this virus. And I appreciate you getting the hair out of my face. Then that was nice. That was a nice little touch.
No, I know that.
So, I expect it would probably be pushed back a little bit. And then obviously you think about it, Tom, they were just at the start of the season. They're probably going to have some kind of mini preseason again, because even though the guys can stay fit, they can eat right, they can run, it's different than kicking a ball around with 20 to 25 other guys,
Right.
and training week in, week out. So, yeah, I would expect some kind of mini preseason. And then hopefully, we get to kick off and go into December to run the season up. If you look at the Premier League and all the European leagues are still hoping to finish this season by the end of June, which gives you, if there's, 10 to a dozen games left, they're probably looking at a mid-May, early May probably start time. Major League Soccer's got the luxury of maybe going a little bit later, starting a little bit later, knowing they can go into December after recent changes to the scheduling over the last couple of years in Major League Soccer that would make it finish in October for regular season and November for the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think Major League Soccer's fortunate in that regard, aren't they? Their playoff schedule before 2019 ran all the way into the new year, and they obviously altered that in 2019, shortened the playoffs up, and the season got done far sooner. But if they wanted to, they could easily go back to what they had been doing for many years previously, and just have the season run for a little longer, and the preseason won't be quite as long, which would be a shame for, I'm sure, some of the players that enjoy going home. But at the same time, they're trying to make a bit of coin here and there, and their pastime is knocking the round ball around. So I don't think many people would be all that upset. I know fans certainly wouldn't, would they?
No. I mean, as long as it happens, I think it's an escape from reality of what's going on right now. The worrying of employment, the worry of your family getting sick, or older members or younger members getting sick. Just general welfare. I think eventually, when we get past all this, hopefully in the next couple of months, it'll be a nice release. That we can restart the season. Then you can start thinking about other sports as well, Tom. Your beloved Utes. Obviously spring ball is kind of not there, but there should be plenty of time to get fit and ready for the fall season. Same with basketball that swings around, comes around. people that like Major League Baseball, obviously they can shorten that season, 180 games a season. What are you talking about? But there's plenty that we can all be doing. But I just felt like this was an opportunity for the leagues in Europe to go and be kind of almost like the same type of season as Major League Soccer. Because the 2022 World Cup in Qatar is, or Qatar as you Americans say it, well, you're not American, you're Australian, but I always say Qatar, it's going to be in a Winter World Cup because it's so hot in the summer. So they're moving it towards the winter. I thought it just felt like the European leagues could have moved and had their season switched up a little bit and been maybe a little bit more on the MLS schedule just to build up for the nations. But it doesn't look like it's going to be. The Olympics postponed. The European Championships have been postponed until next year as well, next summer. So, as long as we get our sports in, it's our passion and it's what we love the most. And as long as everybody's fit and healthy and people can come to games, because obviously the games without fans is absolutely nothing. We'll take those wins as they come along.
Sure, I agree. It's daunting to say the least, but at the same time, I guess we got to do what we have to do, and that is to flatten that curve. Now, Real Salt Lake under the new head coach, Freddy Juarez, right? We're able to get 2 games in, and but 2 very, I thought, different games to be frank. And I think we should probably dive into that because there's a lot to talk about. And there's a lot that happened in those 2 games that I think will play a role as the season continues, if it does, in 2020. But 2 different lineups for both games, two somewhat different styles of play. For example, maybe we start with Justin Glad against Orlando. Spenno, he was playing right back, which I thought was a surprise to most fans. Now, if you paid attention to the practice matches that take place during the preseason, specifically those that Real Salt Lake took part in down in Arizona, Justin Glad did see time at right back, and there was conversation that took place between some very very strong fans as to whether or not that would actually happen in the regular season. It did. It happened in the opening game. And then he didn't see the field in the second game for a number of reasons. I think mainly because he was scheduled to go play some Olympic qualifiers with the under-23, and they were just giving him some time to rest. I think maybe if I remember correctly, he had a minor strain to his foot or something they mentioned, but I could be wrong.
I can't remember that, but you might be wrong. You might be right. I can't remember. It's been like a month away now, so I can't remember.
I know, but the future of Glad, do you think he is a right back, or would you prefer him seeing it? Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you for saying that.
I think he's your third choice right back when Aaron is injured, or obviously the other right back that we brought in, whose name is going to completely escape me right now. But plays for Trinidad and Tobago. But so we already have those two. We already have those 2 fullbacks that we'll have for the squad. And as I said, unless there's some deep injury issues that we have, you won't see Justin there very often. But it is something that he did. He did play there in his college days. From time to time. It wasn't something that was a something that he did a ton, but it's something that he can do, similarly to what Brooks Lennon did for Real Salt Lake, tried to develop. Alvin Jones, sorry, is the other one, is the backup. Sorry. And so, no, I don't think that's something you'll see. Again, you won't see Aaron Herrera play on the wing. Again, he did that a little bit for New Mexico, the Lobos, in college. From time to time, but I don't think you'll see him on the wing that often unless we go into those deep injury problems, which we did have in the first game. You're thinking about Justin Miram was catching up, playing catch up, I should say. Jeizon Ramirez wasn't with the squad yet. He just got his visa clearance. Obviously, Corey Baird was coming off the back of an injury. So, there was a little bit thin on the ground for wide players. So, yeah, we kind of knew what this team was going to be. I thought it was a gutty performance over in Orlando, an Orlando team that I expect to probably be a little bit better than they have over in seasons past. But a gritty performance and a performance that they grew into in the second half. I thought they were full value for that point. They did have to ride their luck at times, but the second half there was much improvement. And as I said, you pick up a point on the road in Major League Soccer. I think it is one of the most difficult leagues to pick up results in, just because you factor in the amount of traveling, the limitations with the squad that you have to deal with at times, and plus the injuries and not wanting to risk players that weren't fully fit. And losing them for longer. You saw Giuseppe Rossi get injured after that. That's why he missed the next game. He's been out of the game for 18 months, got some minutes under his belt, but then had that calf strain, hamstring injury. Wasn't a huge thing, but you expect these things to happen for somebody that hasn't played in a year and a half. That you're going to get those niggles as he builds up his fitness. So it was a shame that we didn't see him in the next game. But with this coronavirus, I guess if we're looking at plus points, it allows him to keep working out and getting stronger and stronger, even if he is by himself.
Right. Is it, going back to this centre-back conversation quickly, is it fair to assume that, look, Nedum Onuoha is probably the number one centre-back on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think really too many people out there probably would say otherwise. But then you've got this interesting dynamic between Marcelo Silva and Justin Glad. Now, a year ago, under Petke, and even towards the end of the season when Freddy took over as interim, you saw Justin Glad and Onuoha be kind of the main duo back there. But this season, Marcelo Silva and Nedum have been playing alongside one another. Do you think it's just something that Freddy's tinkering with? Do you think maybe it's going to be on rotation, keep those legs fresh? Obviously, Marcelo and Nedum are obviously older in age, and so they probably are due for a spell here and there throughout the course of the season. I'm still, before you speak, I'm still under the impression that Onuoha and Justin Glad's the best partnership for Real Salt Lake moving forward. But Freddy alluded to maybe something else.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that Justin Glad long term is your number one centre back when it's all said and done. I think Ned will, and I believe will, after this season, look to move back home, move back to England, and that may be an opportunity there for somebody else to step up. Obviously, you've got Eric Holt, but from what we've seen, I thought the centre back partnership against Orlando and against New York Red Bulls was actually very, very solid. And you probably need that. Obviously, the first game, there was no Everton Louise. So you probably needed a little bit more experience there. Obviously, he was finishing off his suspension from the playoffs against Seattle, that red card he got there against Seattle last season. So it definitely made sense to have Justin Glad, a more mobile player, playing out wide, where you don't have the players available for you. And then Marcelo and Nedum in the middle. And then this, I thought they played so well against Orlando. They were so disciplined. They deserved to keep their place. But I think when you don't play Justin in the middle, you lose some of that recovery speed, which if you're playing a little bit of a higher line, especially with our fullbacks, with Donny Toya and Aaron Herrera that push on a lot, you leave yourselves a little bit more exposed with, and I won't say lack of pace, because their positioning in Nedum Onuoha and Marcelo Silva is very good, but you allow yourself a step or two, a foot or two further up when you play a Justin Glad, but just because of his recovery speed. And I think that's where long term, you'll see RSL finally and eventually revert back to Justin Glad playing with or Marcelo Silva or Nedum Onuoha.
Right. I thought it was also interesting for the second game that Freddy decided it was time to give Bees the nod over Justin. And look, what Beasley did in that second game and the poor performance he put out there,
Mhm.
that's kind of as bad as it's going to get for Bees. I think he's a talented player. I just personally prefer what I see from Justin Portier. I think he offers more. He's not that big-bodied defender, is he? But you've got that with Everton Louise when Everton comes back, so you don't need somebody that can go in there and make
Mhm.
the big challenge. You can have somebody like Portier who's a little more skillful with his feet and can offer more with the ball at his disposal. So it'll be interesting, I think, moving forward to see what Freddy does. Of course,
Mhm.
Beckerman as well. I mean, like, Kyle's come back. What sort of role is he going to play moving forward? Is he going to jump right back into the starting spot? That's such a fascinating conversation because if I'm being quite blunt, I don't think he's good enough at this point in his career to be the starting centre mid alongside Everton Louise. But at the same time, he's a fan favourite. And Freddy Juarez is a brand spanking new coach, and he wants to do the right things. He wants to please the fans. He wants to please the front office. Um,
Mhm.
and Deloy Hansen, the owner, it seems anyway, is influenced by kind of how the fans react to certain decisions. So who knows what to expect when it comes to the centre of the park? I think much like the centre back position, however, there is one player that you can expect to see week in and week out, barring any unforeseen circumstances, and that's Everton Louise, who's
Mhm.
a really, really talented player, both on the offensive side and defensive side.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think we'll see Kyle play quite a lot this season. Whether that's the right thing to do is another conversation. If you're looking to set up more defensively, then sure. I think so. At home, though, I think I would prefer to see Everton Louise and Damir Kreilach in that central midfield pairing. You saw that in the second game against New York Red Bulls when Damir started up top, but when Douglas Martinez came on for Nick Beasler in the I couldn't tell you what was it, the 59th
Six,
minute,
yeah,
60, yeah,
60th minute.
59th, 6th minute. You saw Damir drop back into the midfield alongside Everton Luiz, and then Douglas Martinez was that point man, a little bit more speed, and we looked really, really good. I think that obviously he had his goal chalked off. He just caught the ball in his hand after that header, but if there was any questions if Douglas Martinez could make an impact in Major League Soccer, because we saw it in the USL, if he could actually make an impact in Major League Soccer, I think that was put to bed. I think the delivery from out wide was superb. You think about Jeizon Ramirez getting into the swing of things, Justin Miram getting more acclimatized to the squad. Albert Rusnak was absolutely phenomenal. My man of the match, by the way. I thought his delivery from set pieces was absolutely inch perfect all game long. And then you think about Corey Baird on the right hand side. I just think that there was lots of positives, and RSL didn't get what they deserved, and that was all 3 points. I think there is so much to come from this. And then you obviously think about Giuseppe Rossi. You think about Sam Johnson, who's working his way back from injury. Then you've got three strikers in Douglas Martinez, Giuseppe Rossi, and Sam Johnson that could be your point man. And Damir Kreilach, obviously, a lot more at home, playing in that central midfield role, obviously popping up, getting into the box late, and scoring that injury time equaliser to get us a deserved point at Rio Tinto Stadium.
I I, I'm I've got an interesting take that I'm curious to hear your response to. You mentioned Albert Rusnak's delivery from free kicks, and I agree. I think the delivery into the box was immense. I thought it was superb. He's able to generate a decent amount of spin on the ball, but it's not lofted. It's kind of shot in there pretty flat, which is awfully difficult to defend at times, especially when there's movement on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I do think when it comes to taking a shot from a free kick rather, I think he is probably not the best man for the job, and he's going to hate me for saying that. But
I
I think from
think.
a delivery standpoint, he's really good. But when it
Mhm.
comes to you know, trying to hit top bins, as Jimmy Bulldog Bullard would refer to it,
The
I just
Bulldog.
I don't know if he's up. I don't know if he's the man for the job, Spenno.
I think you'll find when Giuseppe Rossi is fit and on the pitch at the same time, you'll see Giuseppe Rossi take over those duties. I don't know if you've been able to watch any of the preseason, but some of the things that he was doing the ball from set piece delivery, striking on goal. I think technical ability, he dwarfs anybody in this squad. Albert Rusnak was our technical guy. Right. He was the one that replaced Javier Morales. He's absolutely got technical ability through the roof, so to speak. But when you watch Giuseppe Rossi, it's another level or two above what Albert is. Yeah, it's fantastic. So yeah, I think you'll see a couple of tweaks here and there when Giuseppe Rossi is on the field at the same time as Albert Rusnak when it comes to those dead ball delivery opportunities.
And then one of the last topics I want to get to, I can hear my screaming 4-week-old baby, and the missus is at the shops. So this has gone just as according to plan as it should. I can let him scream for a bit longer. Yeah, it's good for him, healthy for him. Know that Dad cares. Now, Damir Kreilach, Svenno.
Yes.
And I've felt this way for quite some time. I think a lot of the RSL fan base is starting to pick up on it, but I do not think his role as a number 9 is good enough for Major League Soccer. There are a couple reasons behind that I'm more than happy to share with people. I think when he plays number 9, he offers a lot in the air. You know, his heading ability is really, really good, but he drops into the midfield too often. So when Real Salt Lake have the ball and have possession, he almost, subconsciously just drops back into where his preferred position is, and that's somewhere around the center of the park, whether it's center mid or center attacking mid. It's in those areas, and then what happens is because RSL use those flanks a lot, right? They work tirelessly, Corey Baird and the like, to get open, beat a defender, and then whip balls in to hopefully a Damir Kreilach. More often than not, I've found that he's just nowhere to be seen. Because he's dropped so far back, he doesn't quite give himself enough time to get into the box and be dangerous. And if he does, he doesn't get himself into a dangerous position because he's kind of rushed with his thinking. So I personally would love to see moving forward Damir Kreilach not play as the number 9. Mm-hmm. I think what Douglas Martinez showed in the short 20-odd minutes he played against the New York Red Bulls, he's more than capable to offer something up there. The team, Spenno, I thought just looked really calm when Douglas made his appearance. Something changed. It's almost like they had some composure all of a sudden, and they were really, really dangerous. Not that they weren't dangerous previously to his arrival on the pitch, but when he joined, I mean, it was just there was a different mojo that team had, and so I would love going forward if Freddy ever listens to this or watches for poor Damir to not be put out of position and out of sorts and play a role. Quite frankly, he's just not all that familiar with.
Yeah, no, I think you agree, and I think that's Freddy's long-term plan is not to have Damir there. The thing is that sometimes you have to defend from the front, and he'll do that for you. Obviously, hold the ball up. People can play off his knockdowns in Corey Baird and Justin Miram and Albert Rusnak. But when you're babysitting a little bit in the middle of the park, certain players in the middle of the park, you need that defensive player at the front. And that's not it's not a long-term thing that you want for Real Salt Lake. You want Damir Kreilach able to break into the box late from central midfield, which he's comfortable doing. You've got a man in Everton Luiz that is more than comfortable of orchestrating and moving people around and defending the back four. And then, obviously, you have players that with a little bit of pace in Douglas Martinez, in Sam Johnson, that will scare centre-backs. They will drop a little bit deeper. They won't engage as much as they will with Damir Kreilach because they know they're not going to get turned, so to speak, for pace and beaten for pace. It's quite similar. So I think we add a different dimension to our play when you have a Sam Johnson, when you have a Douglas Martinez, and even to an extent, depending on how fit he is and how healthy he can be, Giuseppe Rossi. He's not a burner as such, but he'll drop deep, but still lead the line for you. And obviously he can beat people. That's no issue there. When you have Damir Kreilach playing alongside an Albert Rusnak and an Everton Luiz, then you see those trademark runs. He'll run 90 minutes for you all match long. That's not an issue. And obviously, as you saw, the goal in the 91st, 92nd minute was him coming from central midfield, late on, coming from a deep position and getting on the end of Aaron Herrera's wonderful delivery from the right flank. And that is what his strengths are. He is an absolute nightmare to pick up because he just floats in. And I think we're missing a trick there, playing him up top, as you said, Tom. If we continue to do that, then we're not seeing the best of Damir. And offensively, we need to get better. We have a great back line defensively last season after the Gold Cup. Absolutely superb, like the best defense in Major League Soccer. But we still don't score enough goals. And that's what is always going to be our undoing. And when you're stopping a player that I won't put him in the same bracket, but the same kind of player as a Frank Lampard, coming from deep and scoring goals and coming up with vital goals, particularly with the firepower we have. Again, I just think we're missing a trick there when you're babysitting other players.
Yeah, no, I like where your head's at. I will say as well, what we saw against the Red Bulls was really quite promising. You kind of go back, recap some of the numbers. I mean, 21 shots for crying out loud. Red Bulls just with 4. Although I guess daunting stat would be shots on target. Real Salt Lake just managed to put 5 on target. So your efficiency when you end up striking the football probably needs to be a bit higher going forward. Although just the second week of the season, so we'll let them off the hook there. Total passes, 466 passes to 279. That's 63% possession and an absolute domination in the center of the park. They controlled the entire game. They obviously gave up an early goal, which is always challenging. But you know what I was most impressed with was the fact that they were able to pinch that goal back, and albeit really, really late in the game, they should have had 4 or 5 goals prior to the one going in. But what I used to get really frustrated with watching Real Salt Lake at Rio Tinto Stadium in particular was when they'd give up an early goal, teams would just play everybody behind the ball and say if you're gonna score, it's gonna take a lot. And Real Salt Lake more often than not were unable to do so, and it was incredibly frustrating for the fans. I'm sure more so even for the players, front office, and coaches to not be able to get something out of a game that you felt as though you were probably deserving. Whereas against the Red Bulls, they just persevered. They didn't take their foot off the gas at all. They constantly were trying to move forward, and they end up getting rewarded because of it. I also thought the ball movement was much better than we'd seen at Rio Tinto Stadium when they'd gone down a goal early in the past. I feel as though they kind of got lost once teams started putting a lot of players behind the ball. They didn't quite have any avenues. They didn't know how to get themselves out of their own trouble. But against the Red Bulls, they were generating lots of chances, and they didn't put too many on target, unfortunately. But they did when it counted, and that was late in the game to pinch a point. So that was really promising, I think, for RSL fans as they kind of contemplate and think about the future. That's got to be something that they look to and kind of hang their hat high on and get really excited about going back to the riot in the future, right?
Absolutely. I think that there's a patience behind this team. There was no panicking, and they stuck to the task. They were very, very patient. They were quick, but they've got a clear philosophy. Freddy likes a lot of ball movement. He likes to let the ball do the work, and we knew New York would sit back. That's their philosophy. They are a counter-attacking team, and they did effectively in the early first half with their goal. They kind of stretched RSL with a long ball and won that ball over the top and put RSL on their heels. But RSL grew into the game. They continued to work on their philosophy, moved the ball around, and you saw glimpses of this team. Now, this is a long-term project. You have to remember that. Justin Miram dead on his feet when he came off the pitch. Needs to get fitter. There's certain things that RSL need to do to get these guys into shape. As I said, this coronavirus, whilst awful, is getting people healthier. Hopefully, without this virus, I should say the team. And then when we go through this, I'm sure, mini preseason, that people will be on a similar page, and hopefully when the season kicks off again, ASAP, we'll see a different type of team. But you saw glimpses. You saw glimpses of Justin Meram and Albert Rusnak's almost reading each other's minds on certain things. You saw an exciting cameo from Jeizon Ramirez. Obviously, Douglas Martinez, we've already spoken about, but Corey Baird went and put in a very, very good, solid performance, I felt, as well, on the right-hand side. Those are big shoes to fill in Jefferson Savarino leaving, wanting to go to Brazil and further his career. Absolutely fine with that. But it was big shoes to fill. He's not really had a home. His rookie season, he was the number 9 because RSL was still struggling to find a number 9 or attract a number 9. On the second half of last season, he was on the left wing, beating out both Saucedo and Joao Plata and getting some great assists in that towards the season end. Now he's the man, supposedly maybe, that's going to fill Jefferson Savarino's roles. He's got the number 10 number on his back now. He's got a big contract, and he's definitely, like Justin Glad, one of those players that you feel will be here, and Aaron Herrera obviously will be here for a very long time, and be that graduate, that academy graduate that you can see here that will win the hearts over of all the fans. Be a player that will be in the realm of the Javier Moraleses, the Kyle Beckermans, the Nick Romandos, legends of this club that played a long, long, long time for the Claret and Cobalt.
Spencer, it's been real, man. It's been 30 minutes and it just flies by. It's like the good old days. The band's back together. We're talking about the round ball. All is peachy. Trying to make pizza dough for dinner tonight. Just before we get out of here, the missus just got back to me, said there's no yeast activated yeast at the supermarket. So for all you peasants out there hoarding yeast, Spenno, I hope you're not one of them. Otherwise, I'll come knocking on your door. All I want to do is roll a bit of pizza dough, and I can't because you bought yeast that you're probably not ever going to use anyway. It's just going to get expired in 20 years.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to go off.
Yeast takes a while to go off, by the way.
Does it really?
Well, I wouldn't know. I'm just assuming.
I don't know. I don't cook. Hey, so whilst you're cooking tonight, you and Kate and little Freddy, get some Tears for Fears on, songs from the Big Chair. Oh, it's a classic. It's a classic album. Oh, if you... All right. I'm going to send it to you.
No, look,
songs from the Big Chair.
Right. I'll put that. Send me a text and I'll have a crack. But we'll try and do this once a week. And
we will. Hopefully get into the studio at some point.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And then obviously, look, I think now's a good time, Spenno, to try and get some of the boys on the podcast that don't have much going on. Matty Gash hopefully makes an appearance. Elliot Four, our beloved friend. The new GM, obviously. It'd be great to get him on and have a word to him. I think, by the way, and we don't need to get into it, maybe we can save this for next week, but quickly, I reckon he's done a remarkable job taking over the reins from Craig Weibel in just such a short amount of time. He's been able to really continue building a young roster that if they can figure it out on the field, could be really, really dangerous towards season end. So tip my cap off that I'm not wearing to Mr. Fall. And but it'd be great to have him on. It'd be great. I know he might listen to this. We're good friends, aren't we? So
maybe. His mum and dad are lovely, by the way. Mum and dad.
Mum and dad are great. Yeah. No, Ken. I work with Ken. He's a great fella. But anywho, until next week, Spenno. It's been an absolute pleasure. And it's just, good to see your face again. I'm glad the beard's still hanging in there. Yeah, you need to dye it, though. There's a bit of grey coming through.
No. I've got to cover the chins up, and I'm proud of the grey. So we'll leave it at that. Arrivederci. I don't know if that's really a word. I don't know if that's